On today's Sunday news, a top AEW star is set for a lengthy absence. Chelsea Green wants Matt Cardona back in WWE. WWE offers an NIL deal to a second-generation talent, and ECW original Hunter Q Robbins III passes away. Hello and welcome to WhatCulture Wrestling, the solo Sunday news. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope your weekend is going as well as possible. Right, let's get into wrestling news, and let's start things off with a major AEW star who's set for a lengthy absence from television. Yes, that star is none other than Darby Allin. As for that absence, yep, it's the crazy Mount Everest stuff again. Yep. Now, Darby, he last wrestled on the, it was taped a couple of days before, but it was the Christmas Day episode of Dynamite, going to a time limit draw with Ricochet as part of the Continental Classic. Since then, Darby has been seen on TV, which was the Rampage just after that. That was where he was attacked by the Death Riders, thrown down some stairs. And now, Fightful Select reports that Darby Allin is expected to be away from AEW for several months, all as he gets ready to climb Mount Everest. Fightful was told that Darby has now begun his training for that climb, and the current plan is for him to receive a significant push when he returns to AEW, which is not expected to be until the spring. So yeah, no Darby Allin for a fairly hefty amount of time. Now, many fans predicted, myself included, that Darby would be the one to take the AEW World title from Jon Moxley, but that right now that doesn't seem to be the case, unless you can see Moxley holding on to that title through until the spring. It seemed like Darby would be the one eventually to get that big win. Maybe then you have Christian Cage cash in that contract to cut Darby's run short. After all, you can't have Christian not successfully cash in that contract, as that would just kill that gimmick dead the very first time it's been a thing. But either way, don't be expecting to see Darby Allin anytime soon, with him instead taking on the mammoth, insane task of climbing Mount Everest. This is a huge deal. If people just think, it's going for a bit of a climb. No, Mount Everest is just ridiculously dangerous. It's one of those places where there are countless undiscovered dead bodies, countless dead bodies that have been able to be removed from the mountain due to the intense conditions up there. I mean, I had a little look into it before I started this video. Around 350 people have died trying to climb Mount Everest. Over 200 dead bodies are stuck on the mountain. It's an intimidating place, man. And how long the climb takes? Usually between 6 to 10 weeks. And that's not including, obviously, all the training you have before that. You have to get yourself into all sorts of conditions. Randomly, there was a taxi driver here in Wrexham who was doing this as part of a charity thing, and he was explaining to me just like the training, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, you got the conditions, you got the weather, you got the altitude to take into account, avalanches. It's just, yeah, not for me. But then again, I am not Darby Allin, and I am far from your crazy daredevil type. I'm the boring fella who sat in the comfort of my own home here in icy northeast Wales. But either way, Darby is going to Derby, which for wrestling fans means no Darby Allin on our screens for a good chunk of time. Now, switching gears from AEW to WWE, and Chelsea Green, the Women's United States Champion, has once again reiterated how she's keen to see Matt Cardona return to WWE. Now, Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona, of course, are a happily married couple. Now, these comments came about during an appearance on the Conversations with the Wrestling Classic podcast, where Chelsea talked about how she feels somewhat guilty that Cardona isn't in WWE these days, and that she is. She said how Cardona is happy for her, supports her in everything that she does. And then there's a quote here that he literally came out of the womb wanting to be a WWE superstar. As Chelsea put it, I want him so badly to come back and have that final closure. That ending that he so deserves, putting out that not only does she want Matt Cardona back in WWE, but that the fans do too. Of course, Matt Cardona was with WWE from 2006 through into 2020 as Zack Ryder, winning the United States title, having a brief, it was a really memorable moment, and then an extremely brief run, like literally a day, with the Intercontinental title. There was a couple of tag team title runs alongside Kurt Hawkins, Brian Myers. Since leaving WWE though, Matt Cardona, I mean, you look at somebody like Drew McIntyre, you look at Cody Rhodes, who they leave WWE, they go away, they just completely reinvent themselves. I'm not saying that Cardona is quite on that level, but just the work he's done, the hustle, the grind he's put in to just become one of the hottest independent wrestlers on the planet, the Deathmatch King, no less, busting his ass for GCW, for TNA, for the NWA, becoming the NWA World Heavyweight Champion at one point. Now the NWA is a promotion these days, is It's not great, but still, to have that on your resume, the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, that still means something. That's one of the greatest titles in all professional wrestling. The point being, Cardona's just been killing it. I mean, he has made a few AEW appearances over the past few years. I mean, recently for ROH, setting up at Final Battle, and a few shows leading up to that. But Matt Cardona's not been shy about making it clear that his aim is to return to WWE at some point, with the caveat as well being that Zack Ryder is dead, totally dead, and any return would be Matt Cardona as Matt Cardona. Now, he did suffer an ankle injury at ROH Final Battle in December, where he lost to ROH World Champion Chris Jericho. And there hasn't really been much of an update on that injury, bar that Cardona was seen on crutches after the match. But let us know in the comments, would you like to see Matt Cardona back in WWE? If he's fit and healthy, I mean, would you possibly like to see him show up in the Royal Rumble? That will be here before you know it, and I cannot wait. I love the Rumble, man. Every year, just Royal Rumble. Even if the Rumble themselves might not, always hit home, just the hype leading into it, the anticipation around it, the who's going to appear, what's going to happen, who's going to return, who's going to debut. I love the Royal Rumble. But while Matt Cardona may end up back in WWE one day, one other person who could find themselves cracking skulls in the WWE ring is Brock Rechsteiner. Yes, as in we may have another Steiner in WWE. For those unaware, Brock Rechsteiner is the son of Scott Steiner, the cousin of Bron Breakker, the nephew of Rick Steiner, the dog-faced gremlin. And as revealed by Big Papa Pump during the recent Busted Open appearance, Brock has now been offered a WWE NIL deal. Now, this topic came up as Scott Steiner talked about burying the hatchet with WWE, noting how when he left the company back in, 2004, he left with hard feelings, but he got to a point where he just basically needed to let that stuff go. That second run for Scott Steiner, it was anticlimactic, disappointing, frustrating. I don't know what word you want to throw at it, but it was one that was really hampered by the fact that Scott Steiner was dealing with major nerve damage in his foot, had drop foot, which for anyone watching Scott Steiner when he turned up in 2002, that was a very different Scott Steiner, even to the one of the final days of WCW. Scott Steiner was just a beast, man. Blew me away totally the first time I saw him back in the early 90s. Him and Rick in WCW. Then they jumped to WWF for 2 years. Went back to Japan, did a brief stint in ECW, landed back in WCW in, I guess it would have been about 1996, early 1996 was it? And that's without even talking about Scott Steiner breaking out as a singles act, becoming Big Papa Pump, the big bad booty daddy. Yes. You can tell I'm a bit of a Scott Steiner nerd. That Frankensteiner, man, it was just insane to for a young me to see that Frankensteiner from big old Scotty Steiner in the early 90s. It just blew my little mind. Either way, enough about Scott Steiner and my nerdy fandom for Big Papa Pump. The story here is Scott's son, Brock. Scotty revealed that Triple H rang him about 3 weeks ago and offered Brock an NIL deal. That's easy for me to say when I'm highly caffeinated. Now, NIL stands for Next in Line, which is the WWE program to sign up college athletes. As for Brock Rechsteiner, he's a football star at Jacksonville State University, a wide receiver, I believe, which means absolutely nothing for me to be, because I am clueless when it comes to football. And late last year, you had those pictures that surfaced of Brock looking all jacked in his football gear and with his dad's old mesh headgear on, the King Arthur stuff. The dude looks like a very impressive physical specimen. But it's worth noting that Scott Steiner didn't specifically say whether Brock had agreed an NIL deal or not, but just that he'd been offered that deal. If he's anything like his dad, his uncle, his cousin, Brock Rechsteiner could well take to pro wrestling like a duck to water. But that's something we'll have to wait and see how things develop in the coming years. To look at him now, it's crazy to think that Bron Breakker had zero pro wrestling experience before signing with NXT. Yes, his dad was a very good professional wrestler. Yes, his uncle was a very good professional wrestler. But he'd not had any actual wrestling training. It's not like he'd been working the indies. It was just, right, you play football at college, here's a contract, let's see what you can do. And then all of a sudden, when he debuts on NXT 2.0, just the impact that Bron Breakker made in such a short space of time, and now on the main roster, of course, killing it. It's just like, yeah. So if Brock Rechsteiner can take to this business like Bron Breakker can, yeah, that's a scary prospect for the coming years. But ended things today on a sad note. An ECW original, Robin Hunt, has passed away. This is news that started circulating this morning. For fans of ECW, Robin Hunt worked as Hunter Q. Robbins III, a heel manager during the early days of the promotion, and as that kind of that period where Eastern Championship Wrestling became Extreme Championship Wrestling. Speaking of Extreme, Hunter Q. Robbins III was the original manager for Sabu when the suicidal, homicidal, genocidal, death-defying Maniac debuted for ECW. He also managed Jimmy Snuka, guided both the Suicide Blondes and the Super Destroyers to tag team titles. The Super Destroyers actually as well being the inaugural ECW tag team champions. After his time with ECW came to an end, from doing a little bit of digging here, it looks like Robin Hunt largely moved away from wrestling and instead worked in independent film, including a short called Paradox, a science fiction short that picked up a few awards last year on the festival circuit. Now it was the Blue Meanie who that was the first person I saw commenting on this news on social media, and then since then several ECW names I've been paying tribute to Robin. So just the thoughts of all of us here at What Culture Wrestling go out to the family and friends of Robin Hunt, who for a few years there was a really, really fun part of ECW back in the day. Now, as I'm recording this, there is a developing story around former WWE Women's Champion Melina. This is from the Cauliflower Alley Club, which is obviously an extremely reputable, prestigious organization. The Cauliflower Alley Club is taken to X in the last, by the looks of it, the last hour or so, last 30 minutes, to say that Melina has been unreachable during the wildfires in Los Angeles, and they're asking if anybody knows her whereabouts or if they can get in contact with her. As I said, this is something that's just popped up on X in like the last little while, so hopefully Melina is safe and well and has been in contact with somebody by the time this video has gone out. Likewise, I hope any of you in and around that area are safe and well, or as safe and well as you can be. From keeping up with things on the news over here, it's just, oh man, it's absolutely crazy to watch what's going on. So on that somber note, we'll bring things to an end here. This has been What Culture Wrestling, the solo Sunday news. I've been Andrew Pollard. Again, be safe, be well, and I will catch you next weekend.